Okay, students, once you print out your reference, this is page 2 of the handouts of drawing the skull. What you want to do is we want to uh, find the center of this vertically and horizontally, okay? So we're going to look at, and you can do this with the ruler or you can eyeball it if you want. This is 5 3/4, so that's 2.5. Um, two, two and 7/4 here, um, and you make your mark there. Then you want to come in and make sure that you're staying horizontal. I mean parallel with the top and the bottom edges, right? Draw your line there. Then you're going to do the vertical, and so on here we're going to look at the width. And we're going to look at that, and it looks like it's 1 and 7/14. All right, right about there. That's the center. Then again, staying parallel with the two edges. Okay, so that's what you want to do with the printout, and then just set that aside. We're going to come back to that later. Okay. Then you're going to pull out a sheet of your drawing paper, which I'm going to be working on something that's a little bit smaller because of the camera size that I'm using here. I can't use a full sheet, but you're going to be using a 12 by 18, and your format is going to be a portrait or vertical, and you're going to position the oval kind of a little bit above the halfway point on your drawing paper, right? You don't want it to be sitting right in the center, or you don't want it to be too low. So you're gonna make an oval. Well, the first thing you do to kind of get an idea, you want to make your oval so that it's going to be I'll focus in here. So that it's live. What you're going to do is you're going to measure your hand. This is your unit of measure when doing a portrait, is you're using your hand. So you take that, and then again here, just eyeballing it here and looking at half of that. Half of that is what you're going to add to the top. So there's one hand right here, the size of one of your hands, right? One hand, which is your unit of measure, and then you're going to take half of that, and you're going to add it on the top, right? You're going to take half of that and add it up here on the top. You're going to take that half of that, and you can just take your pencil, take that, and make your mark. And so now you've got this oval, right? Now you've got this oval. What we're striving for here is to get a life-size shape, life-size skull drawn on here. Okay, and I'm going to switch over to a smaller sheet now. Like I said, because I have to work a little bit smaller because of the camera that I'm working on. So now I've got the size drawn out, right? I've got the size drawn out of the skull, which is 1.5 of my hand size. All right. Then I've got an oval that I've drawn on here, and I'm going to duplicate what I did on the skull here, right? I had done the vertical and then the horizontal line, so I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to do, and again, I'm doing this freehand, but if you want to, you can measure it all out. Okay, And now what I want to do is I want to find my unit of measure here, which is going to be my in when we do the portrait next, it's going your eye is going to be your unit of measure. In this, and when you're drawing the skull, your eye socket is going to be your unit of measure, right? So we do this right here, and that kind of gives us our unit of measure right there. I can take that measure and use it to see how far apart things are according to this dimension right here. This the width of that eye socket. Okay, so I look at the center of it right here, right? That's the center. The the crosshairs right there, and I want to look at now. I'm gonna to find this spot right here from the center over. I need to look at my planiers, right? The planiers being all of the different values, and I'm going to and this is just um, depending on how you see the values. I'm going to say this is one here, and then this is two, and then three tiny one there, a tiny planier right there. So I'm going to do one, two, and then three. So then I look at that space, and I say, okay, well, is that proportionally the space there? And it looks like it might be a little bit wide, so I'm going to come back in and make my adjustments there. And then what I want to do is I want to look at the top half, and I want to look at the shape. So I'm going to I'm outlining this so that I can see the actual shape, so that you can see the actual shape that I'm drawing, which is going to be this area right in here, right? That area right there. That's the area that I'm going to draw. So I look at that, and I again, because I'm drawing the distance here, looking at the distance, and this is this is not the exact size, but because I'm going to be drawing mine larger life size, right? This is just my reference, and I'm looking at this, and then looking at the shape, here. Um, all right, and then I'm going to do the same thing with the bottom. I'm doing the same thing with the bottom here. Okay. So now I've got my unit of measure right there. All right, that's my the size that I'm going to look at when I want to measure uh, the distance of all of the other uh, features on the skull. So now I'm going to walk from this corner over to the beginning of the inside edge of the next of the other eye uh, cavity here. So we're going to look at the planes. 1, 2, 3. Okay, here we go. 1, 2, 3. So it's about right there. I'm gonna say maybe right about there. Okay. So now I want to look at the width between the two inside edges of this. All right, and I'm going to say, okay, it looks about right. It looks too wide. Yeah. But again, and I'm going to bring in this in just a tiny bit. I'll bring this in also a little bit right there. Up there, and now I'm going to. This is going to be real important for you to be able to place all of these areas of the skull, all these features of the skull in the proper place. So I'm going to create a an individual ruler that's going to be specific to my drawing here. Okay, so this is my my actual drawing. Um, and then over here, I want to do it on the same edge so that y'all can see how I'm using this. Then this is the one divided up into quarters, right? You know, 1, half, and then quarters. And then this is my reference that I'm using. All right. So I want to. So I'm going to take my unit of measure here and place it on here, right? And that gives me the outside edge. And I'm going to do the same thing as I did on this eye socket here. I'm going to outline it so I can really get a feel for the shape. See what it looks like. Right? Then I'm going to draw that in here. Again, here I want to look at the distance. Be aware of the distance from this horizontal axis to the top here. And these are still kind of a level of gesture lines, right? So that we're not too concerned with the overall shape. And I'm gonna draw a horizontal line here just to ensure that these are about the same size here. Because if I come in and I look at that, and they look like they're pretty close to the same size here. I don't want to make one smaller than the other, right? So we'll do that. All right, so now we've got the two. Now this is where it the siding really comes into play, because what I want to make sure that I'm doing is applying that H.A.V, right? And that's looking at the horizontal alignment, right? Horizontal, angle, and vertical. Horizontal, angle, and vertical siding off of everything off of every object, every item in here, right? So we're looking at this, and if I do a horizontal siding on this, and I think you need to apply at least one of these, maybe even two of these sidings to each of these features in the skull. So if I come in and this is where the students really always end up getting this incorrect here and messing this up here, is that if I draw that, right, now look at this, I've got an intersecting line here, right? Those are intersecting lines right there. So I can actually come in here and I can say, okay, well, again, just a ballpark in this area right here, right about here is where that intersecting lines are. So if I draw a horizontal line connecting those, then it tells me where that nose cavity is right there, right? And then I look at this, again, observation, looking at the width here and then looking at the width there, and the placement of this, the shape here. Again, see, looking at this area here. And now how do I know where to stop? Okay, well, let's go to my unit of measure. I'm going to double check it first with my reference, taking this unit of measure and then looking and working off of the center point here, which is, look at that, it's the length of one of these the eye sockets, right, which is my unit of measure. So I come in here now, and on my drawing here, this is where I need to stop, right there. That's how far, right? 1. Again, drawing a circle around there because I can fudge that back and forth. It's still very fluid. All my spacing is very fluid. Okay, so then I look at this and then come back in like this and then like this, this. Okay, so that's kind of where I'm at. And here I may even say, look at I want to see where this is at. Wow, look at that. Ah, perfectly aligns with this area right in here. So I know that I need to get that wide. So it does need to be a little bit wider. Um, I can even look at this area here again. Observation, right? Looking at where those areas align. Okay. So now I look at that and I say, okay, well, it looks about right. The distance from here to here and here to here. That looks about right. And everybody's is going to look a little bit different. We're not going to duplicate this uh, perfectly. Everybody's going to have, like I talked about, your individual style is going to play a part of in this, right? So then we look at the angles now. So let's go back to what was the horizontal angle and vertical sighting, the half. So if I look at that and I just want to double check here, I just want to double check here with my red pen, and I do this, and sure enough, it has about the right angle there. Okay, so then now I want to look at walking myself down to the other areas, the other features. So if I look at this area right in here, I can do a vertical sighting off of that, right? Do a vertical sighting, and it appears to be right in the center of this eye socket, right? So if I come in from the center here, and I draw a vertical line, it and then also horizontal. Let's do a horizontal from the top here, not from here, but from up here. Pretty close to being aligned there, right? I draw that like that. So that tells me that little opening is going to be right about there, right? Almost looks like a little drumstick right there, like that, right? All right. Then I need to find out where the teeth are going to be, the top of the teeth, the center of the teeth, the bottom of the teeth, and the chin. How am I going to do that? Go back to my reference first. Get an idea of how far I have to go down from the anchor point here. So that's one, right? And then, well, two to the bottom, to 1.5 to the top. Okay. So we've got over here, and we're going to go 1 to the bottom and 1/2 to the top, right? So that's where the top of the teeth are going to be. And again here, if I take the horizontal and shoot a horizontal line, I can kind of get an idea of where it sits, right? So if I do a horizontal, I can see that I may have to move this down a little bit here, but everything's fluid. Just by a little bit, just a little adjustment there. Then I can see where my center of the teeth are at here, right? Bottom, center. But watch, the thing is that again here, if I look at the horizontal line here where the teeth are at, I can see that they're not straight across. They actually curve, which makes sense because if you look at the head from an aerial view, right? If you're looking at the head in an aerial view, right, top of the skull, and then your nose here, and then the mouth is going to be here, right, somewhere in there. It curves, right? It's not flat. The mouth is not flat. It sits on the round skull. So now I can look at the center of the teeth, and I can say, okay, well, I can see that it curves a little bit up to this point here. I could curve it like that, right? Uh, and then I can look at the placement of that. This is the plane. This is a plane, and that I'm putting in here just to kind of help me determine where the teeth is at. Okay, so now I'm going to count those teeth. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's what I see. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. So now, and when I'm drawing the teeth here, I don't want to make a line for the teeth. I don't want to draw the teeth like this, right? I want to really focus on the teeth up here, more like this. Shadow areas. So that's how you're going to draw the teeth, right? So as we're looking at this, again, we're going to curve it a little bit, curve this a little bit here. Now I'm going to look at some planaires here, putting in a little bit of value in here. Looking at this area here. Now, as I look at here's another area where students always seem to go wrong is the width here in the temple. If we look at that, and I'm going to walk this again, a lot of observation, because if I look at this line here, where it actually sits, spacing, and then if I look at again horizontal, where it sits right here, right? If I look at that and see where it actually sits in relationship here, about right here. And then the head also kind of comes back out, because again, if I look at a vertical siding here, on a staying parallel with the edge, I can see that the head actually comes out a little bit outside of that area, right? So and again here, need to bring in this a little bit more here. About right here. Okay. So now that area, I'm gonna finish that out later here. Then we look at intersecting points here. Again here, I'm looking at this intersecting point right there, intersecting point there, and I look at where I need to locate that, and it looks like about right here. So then I come in there. Now to find the bottom of it, that, again, I've already determined that. Let's go to your reference first. Always measure your reference first. And we're looking at 1, right? 1, 2, and 3/4. 2 3/4. Okay. So now we come back and put this up here. And we say 1, 1, 2 3/4, somewhere in there. Okay, and so now I know where I have to stop, more or less, right? Okay, so this is an important area here for observation. So if I look at the bottom of his teeth and I come out, I can see that right there is going to be an intersecting point. So I want to look at that also. So at the bottom of his teeth out, come in like this, and then, okay. So that's kind of how you go about blocking out the skull. And so you're going to repeat that same thing on the left hand side, and then you come in here and then you start doing your value, adding your value to this. Okay. All right. That's the end of that demo. All right.